Okay, thanks everyone for your patience. We'll pick back up with planning. I think we're left off at 12.3.1, which is report CDS 25103.
Okay. All right. So through the chair, the subject lands at 4929 Highway 59 are proposed for rezoning from agricultural to hamlet residential holding with a special provision to permit a reduced minimum lot area and to development in order to facilitate future severance of the lands and future development. The subject lands are located on the west side of Highway 59, north of its intersection with Talbot Street. The site spans approximately 34.37 hectares with frontage onto Highway 59. The property is located partially within the hamlet of Cortland, with portions of it being designated as hamlet residential, agricultural, hazard lands, and protected industrial under the Norfolk County official plan. The applicant is proposing a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject lands from agricultural to development and to hamlet residential holding to facilitate official plan conformity, the future severance of residential lots, and the future development of residential properties. The only portion of the land proposed to be rezoned is the portion that is designated as urban residential within the Norfolk County official plan. The area of the three lots proposed to be severed are intended to be zoned as hamlet residential holding, with the remainder of the portion designated as urban residential to be zoned development to facilitate future development. The following proposed special provision to the zoning bylaw would facilitate the creation of the proposed lots to be severed. 14.1111, in lieu of the corresponding provision of hamlet residential RH zone, the following shall be applied: minimum lot area of 0.18 hectares. The application was circulated for comments amongst Norfolk County departments and applicable agencies. The comments that were provided by engineering were discussed at length with the applicant and are the impetus for the holding provision to be provided to be applied to the RH lands. No public comments were received prior to the writing of this report, but a letter in support of the proposal was submitted later and was provided to council members. Financial Services has noted that the proposal would have a minor positive impact on assessment growth and tax revenues as a result of the change in use from agricultural to residential and development. Norfolk County would also receive development charges for any future development that occurs on the site as per the most recent development charges bylaw. It is staff's opinion that the proposed development generally meets the intent of the official plan and is consistent with the PPS. Therefore, staff recommend approval of this application as described in the report and attached documents. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your presentation. Are there questions? Councillor Bandendrishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment. I'm pleased to see it, and I'm pleased to support it. So it'll be an enhancement to the area of Cortland. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else, or a mover and a seconder for the staff recommendation? Councillor Bandendrishi, Councillor Van Passen. Debate or discussion? Go ahead.
Are we going to hear from the applicant or their agent?
Not a public hearing meeting.
No?
So
Okay, thank you.
not on the agenda anyways. Correct. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 12.3.2. CDS 25106.
Through the mayor, these are two zoning bylaw amendment applications for Springview Farm Golf Course located at 657 Culver Road in the geographic township of Townsend. These applications were presented at Public Hearings Committee for public input on December 2nd, 2025. No public input was received at that meeting and no additional comments have been received since that time. The intent of these applications is to clear conditions of consent by recognizing undersized agricultural parcels and removing a single detached dwelling as a permitted use on one of the parcels. The subject applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement and conform to the intent of the official plan. Planning staff support these applications and recommend that they be approved.
Thanks very much, Ms. Call. Are there any questions for planning staff? Okay, a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Huffman and Councillor Van Passen. And all in favor? Carried. Thank you. 12.3.3, CDS 25109.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council, the zoning bylaw amendment application has been received proposing to rezone the property at 9 Scott Drive in Port Dover from residential type 1, R1A, to residential type 4, R4 with a holding provision to permit an 8-unit stacked townhouse development on the property. The original proposal was brought forward to public hearing committee on September 3rd, 2025. After the public meeting, the applicant revised the proposal to reduce the number of units from 10 to 8 and amended the overall site design. Planning staff brought a recommendation report to council on October 28th, 2025, recommending refusal of the application. The main concerns from planning staff were related to the on-site parking reduction and overall compatibility. Council passed the following motion: that this matter be referred back to staff to work with the applicant on possibly amending the application. Since that time, planning staff has worked with the agent and applicant and on a revised proposal. The changes are outlined in the memo that you have before you. The specific provision would permit the special zoning provision would permit a reduced rear yard setback of 3.7 meters. No further relief would be required. A holding provision will still be added to the site. The particulars of the holding provisions are outlined in the memo. The applicant will also be required to obtain the appropriate permit from the Ministry of Transportation, MTO, as the site is in an MTO regulated area. Overall, planning staff are satisfied that the concerns raised previously have been addressed through the revised proposal. The hydro substation providing a buffer to the north, the applicant has constructed 2 single detached dwellings to the south, which will be fenced, and fencing will be installed on the subject lands by the applicant as well. The rear of the property is buffered by vegetation, which will not be removed. No parking relief is required, which was of significant concern to staff as the street cannot accommodate on-street parking. The maximum height of the proposed townhouses is the same height as currently permitted on the property in the R1A zone. The reconfiguration of the building to be perpendicular to the road rather than parallel to the road will reduce the impacts on the streetscape. The applicant has resolved the issues outlined by planning staff in the previous recommendation report. As such, planning staff is recommending that the application to rezone the property be approved. Thank you. I will now answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Josh. So I just want to go through some of the concerns, the specific concerns that were brought up through the deputations. So we heard concerns about the rear yard setback and it not providing suitable space for fire safety or privacy or drainage. Can you just quickly address that?
Through the mayor, Councillor Berry, I don't think that's of concern to fire. We could follow up on this, but I think of buildings in the CBD where they're allowed to have a 0 meter setback and there's no issues from fire.
Okay.
And same with, same with drainage. We do have a holding provision on the property to deal with that.
That was the next thing I was going to get at. So there was an issue of drainage raised, infiltration, fire flow. We had concerns. Well, maybe I'll get to the rest of them as I go through. But so those are all covered by the hold, meaning what?
Through the chair, yes, that the applicant will be required to provide Norfolk County with the fire flows, with the water flows, with water capacity, all of that stuff. So that will be on the that will be required in order for the holding provision to get lifted.
And so can you just, say just for the public, they're like, what does that mean? Like, so the holding provision prevents this from proceeding. What does that mean?
Through the chair, the holding provision will not allow a building permit to be given until all of the criteria of the hold are met to the satisfaction of the of Norfolk County. No building permit will be issued until all of the provisions of the holding have been removed.
And so who makes the decision that they've been satisfied? Is that planning or is that building?
Depending on the studies, it could be a planning department or it could be development engineering.
Okay, thanks. So there was issues with parking, and I understand that based on this new site plan, that you're not concerned about on-street parking. So minimum requirements are met which is fine. Can you just quickly, very quickly, succinctly say, like, how are minimum requirements determined?
Minimum requirements are determined by the zoning bylaw. Zoning has reviewed the revised proposal and has no issues with it.
Okay. Is there, or will there be enough room with these setbacks to collect the garbage from these containers as proposed? Because what I don't want to see is that we've approved this based on this solution, and then it comes back that, oh, well, we can't actually get to them, so now we have to change it, and now we're not actually going to do what we said we were going to do. Not suggesting that that would happen or anything from the planner or developer, but I don't want to be in a situation where Norfolk County approves something that puts them in a bind where they can't deliver on their good intentions.
Through the mayor to Councillor Berry, a similar situation or garbage solution was used at the Port Dover Dairy Queen with the earth bins. It's a smaller site. There's not a designated route to that. So we're confident that the parking aisles are met. They should be able to pick up the garbage. I also wanted to add that we did miss something in the bylaw where we wanted to add for the holding. I'm asking if the clerk maybe could add this if possible, but one of the conditions of removing the hold will be registration of a development agreement to the satisfaction of Norfolk County. So this is to address concerns raised by council at the Public Hearings Committee and would address any kind of external works, and is something we could work out with the developer. I'm not sure if it's possible to add that at this stage, but I wanted to raise that.
Sure, by council resolution.
Okay.
We'll add that.
So there's concerns about the earth bins and how suitable the wet areas are. Will the suitability and the I guess the wetness of the area or the seasonal issues, are the earth bins included in the holding provision as well to make sure that they are suitable, or is that maybe more minutia than we can really control? I just want to clarify that.
Through the chair to Councilor Berry, that's something that can be addressed in the development agreement.
Okay.
It may be surface, the earth bins may not be suitable there. It may be surface dumpsters. We don't know yet.
Okay, fair enough.
That will be addressed. That is one of the items that can be addressed with the development agreement that my colleague just mentioned.
Okay, so there's an issue raised about, concern about licensing of the builder. Is that something that county can control within it, or is that up to the developer to hire a licensed builder?
Through the chair, that would be a question for the building department. I don't know what is required with building code.
No, that's good enough. Thank you. Okay, and I think I got everything that was. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Berry. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I've looked over the technical comments there, and there's a lot of stuff there that, has the applicant done the geotechnical, hydrogeotechnical, has he done any of that or no?
Through the chair to Councilor Brunton, I'm not aware of it, but those will also be requirements to be done before the holding and before any building permits are issued.
So he is aware of all that?
Actually, it's she.
She
She is aware of all that. We have met and have gone through all of the requirements with the applicant.
Okay, and the other thing I noticed in there, I believe it says, we don't know if it's condominium or apartment complex. What is it?
Through the chair, they will be rental units.
Rental units, okay. So all these conditions have to be met that I'm looking at them, I highlighted them all, but if they haven't done them and you say they are aware of it, they ought to be completed before the holding zone is released.
That is correct. Before a building permit can be issued, all of the conditions on the hold will have to be met before a building permit is issued.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for planning staff? Seeing none, there's a staff recommendation, not before you, but in the agenda, unless someone wishes to propose an alternative. Yes, thank you. Okay, with the staff recommendation with the addition of adding an additional condition to the bylaw for the development agreement. Can you repeat that, Ms. Call, what you'd like to see?
I got it.
Through to you, it would be under subsection 3, it'd be part D, registration of a development agreement to the satisfaction of Norfolk County.
Okay. Councilor Berry. Sure. Seconder? Counselor Duthie. Counselor Berry, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. So on that note, and again, Alicia or Josh, can we just have like 4 sentences of what does that mean?
Through the chair to Councilor Berry, it would address things such as drainage, such as fencing, garbage, snow removal, snow storage, any of the other comments, questions, or concerns that could be brought up can be addressed in the agreement.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Counselor Michelli, we got you. 12.3.3. Sorry, that is the former report, just included for council's information. 12.3.4, CDS 25-113. Ms. Derbyshire, I believe.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. Report CDS 25-113 is a follow-up report to last week's council and committee meeting report CDS 25-108. The report outlines 3 options for council's consideration to determine the valuation for rural unopened road allowances, and staff are seeking council's direction on the options as outlined. Thank you, and staff are here to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, questions from council? Councilor Van Passen.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think it's my fault that this came back, so I suppose I should say something that I'm happy to see that there is some little bit of flexibility in there, and I think there is a draft motion that they would request we fill in a blank, and I would think option 1 is the blank where we have the value of rural land somewhere between 14,000, 26,000, depending on what they're like, and leave it to staff to haggle out the best price possible and then come back with a report. So I could put forth the motion that is the staff recommendation filling in option 1 in the blank space, please.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Columbus, anyone wish to speak to that? Debate, discussion? All in favor? Carried. We have nothing from Public Works or Office of the Chief Administrative Officer. So we'll move on to our bylaws. Does any member of council wish to speak to a bylaw? May I have a mover to approve the following, that bylaws 2025-100 to 2025-105 consecutively be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council? Moved by Councillor Van Andrieschie, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All in favor? Carried? And yes.
I'm sorry, I just want to go back to the Scott Drive one just for a sec. I'm sorry. So when I put the motion, when I moved, I was moving to just change the bylaw. Did we cover the whole thing? I'm sorry, it's just that, like, that was my motion, was to amend it. It wasn't necessarily to amend and pass. I'm not disputing passing it. I just want to make sure we did it all.
It's all been completed through you, Madam Mayor. So the resolution that council passed was to add that extra provision within the bylaw, so that will be added to the bylaw that you just are passing.
Okay.
And then the mayor and the clerk will sign the bylaw as amended by that resolution. So it's all been covered.
So we didn't need a separate resolution to change the bylaw as proposed and then pass the bylaw?
No, the resolution.
Okay, good enough. I didn't
The
understand
resolution that advanced that amended the bylaw.
Okay, I'm good with it. I did not get that, but good enough. Thank you.
Okay, and we're back over to you anyways, because we're on motions. So your notice of motion will be heard today as a motion. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Okay,
And
do we
it's
have?
coming up on the screen.
It's on the screen. So again, I guess my motion was just, it's all there. I would like to just get more information when it comes time for budget. So these are all related to questions that I have about outstanding information, and just like I say, when I'm making decisions, I would like to have this. So the reason it's a motion is that I feel like I've either asked for this before and it hasn't made its way to us yet, and I want to make sure it does. Or I've asked and I've been told that I need a motion from council to get staff to do that information. That's why it's all in front of you. And actually, I don't know, before I move it officially, I would like to add one more that I kind of thought of, and just for consideration, is that I'd like to have a sense when we start talking about budget, and some of this is for my knowledge to make better decisions, but it's also so the public understands better where these decisions are rooted. I would like to know how many services have been downloaded from the province that are now costing taxpayers a lot of money. That, when people are thinking about, well, that, my taxes are so high, it's so high. Yeah, some of it is new stuff that we're doing, not a lot. But a lot of it is, no, you shall do this now, that we don't have a choice. And I think it's important, and I'd like to know, I pick a number. I'd love to know, this term, is that the cutoff? Is 10 years the cutoff? Or is it since Norfolk County was formed? How much more financial responsibility is taxpayers taking on that used to be provincial and now shows up on their property tax bill? So these are, I think, important questions as I try to explain to people my decisions and how I make those decisions. And then when it comes time to lift my hand at budget time, this is all stuff that I think is important. So that's why it's before you today for consideration. I want that information for budget.
Okay, so first, we will get a seconder for the motions. Councillor Huffman. And there's an addition of another one, so that's 9 items. Which, that part, I'm hearing from the clerk, did not have notice of any shape or form. Your 9th.
So through you, Madam Mayor, we had a notice of motion that was presented verbally at the last CIC meeting. Today, we put the motion on, and by 2/3, we agreed to, as a council, to discuss that motion. So it really wouldn't be in order now to add another motion to that, because it hasn't been considered or reviewed or even approved by council to discuss today.
Okay, so can I make a motion to amend my own motion then to add it?
Can we waive our,
You'd have to waive your procedural bylaw to do that first, and then a motion to add it.
I was going to disagree with the clerk because it's council, but what his point that I think he's right on is that we waived 2/3 majority to allow 8 items on, so this is for the 9th. So a motion to waive the procedural bylaw to allow your 9th item to be included in your motion.
Sure, then I'll do that. I'll make that motion if that's what I have to do.
Seconded by Councillor Huffman.
Thank you.
All in favor? Okay, that's carried.
Thank you.
All right, so Councillor Van Passen.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. There's a motion on the floor. There's a lot of variation on a lot of different subjects. I don't know how we could have any decent discussion as a whole on this. So can I ask for division of the question into each individual part so that we can go through them one at a time, please?
Yep, that's no problem. I think that's a smart way to do it. Sometimes you get the baby thrown out with the bathwater because there's so many multi-parts. So let's break this down into the first one, which is on the screen before you. So it's moved by Councillor Very, seconded by Councillor Huffman, and I'm going to open it up to debate and discussion on item 1. Councillor Duthie, then Van Odrishi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, this is actually, I think, maybe directed to the CAO. I appreciate the intention of the motion, Councillor Very, and I support the concept and principle. But this is, to me, quite far-reaching. So I guess my question to the CAO is, what is the likelihood that we can provide this information prior to January the 20-something?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've started to gather some of this information as part of our regular process, things that we're trying to capture, because I think it's important that our residents know exactly how much Norfolk County supports all of these various events throughout the year. And so we are going to do our best to pull it together. I know we've started some of it. just as we were pulling other things together. But if we don't have the full comprehensive list by budget in January, we'll at least have something started, and we'll commit to bringing something later on in 2026 that will sort of identify all of this. And it's likely a good idea for us to do this on an annual basis and capture these costs going forward so that residents can know as part of their levy and what they're paying in property tax, how much actually goes to support the various events throughout Norfolk County.
If I could just continue on that. So good to hear. The last line of the motion speaks to highlight examples of the highest investments. But how do we determine what that number is? Like, I'm actually curious to know what it is for almost everything. Like, if it's $500, I don't necessarily need to know. But if it's several thousands of dollars, I want to know. So I guess what's the definition of highest investments? That's probably more to the number.
Am I able to answer that? Is that cool? So I put that line in there in anticipation of your first question. So if we can't break out every $500 expense reasonably by January, but we know that there's tens of thousands going toward whatever, could we at least know that? That's kind of more what I was asking, is that, like, yeah, I want to know the 500s too, but that just may not be practical if there's a bunch of them. So what I was saying was, yeah, give us a general sense, but when we talk about it during budget, maybe we don't need to say, well, we spent $100 in staff time delivering the barricades for this parade. Yeah, fair enough, that's all important. But if we spent X amount of dollars on hydro for something that's in the tens of thousands, that's a little bit different. And it's not that it's good or bad, it's that when people say, what do I get for my taxes? I want to say, do you like that thing? Because that's part of what you get. And we can't really tell them that right now reliably. So that's why I put that in there.
Any other, okay, oh, sorry, Councillor Banadrishi, then Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. And I've read them, and I understand, but to what avail? What is the end result of this, other than to tell the taxpayers that it does cost a lot to do these projects, and we've broken it out, and it's this and that. But is there an ulterior motive to say this project can go and this project can't, and this one does and this one doesn't? Is that the ulterior motive here?
No, there's zero ulterior motive. What I want is when I go to a meeting and people are on me about, well, what does this get, and what do we get, and why do I this, and how come Dover gets that, and Simcoe gets this, and Langton doesn't, and whatever else. I want to say, well, actually, that's fair enough, but you also do get all of these other good things that you don't think about because we've been doing them for 50 years in a community, but you maybe don't think about the fact that that money's got to come from somewhere. And so it's not about ulterior motives, it's about trying to show value to residents for the money that we put towards their community projects, that I wouldn't say they take them for granted, but they maybe aren't aware of how much is contributed and what the cost of that truly is. That's where I'm going with this. It's not to say this is unfair, that's unfair, put people against each other. I want to say an overall amount, whether that amount's 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, that Norfolk County, the corporation, using taxpayer dollars, made all these great things happen in the community. And I want people to understand that that's part of where their taxes go.
Madam Chair, if that's the intent here, that's great. It's to inform people. I hope we just don't use it as something else. And that's really, really important to me, because at the end of the day, some smaller projects shouldn't be wiped off the map sort of deal just because you want to have a higher project. It does cost. It does cost everybody. And breaking it out and letting people know in the communities how much it does cost, I guess is not a bad deal.
That's all. I swear there's no ulterior motive, at least for me. I'm trying to say, here's what it is.
Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to the mover, how far back do you want to go? Is it a one-year study, or is it 2 years, or?
I would, over this one? I want to know
Right.
annually.
Over this one.
Just annually. Just what did we spend in 2025? And what is that number? And I'm not trying to make a political point here in terms of anything other than just residents knowing what we're doing. And so the next time I go to a meeting and someone says, what do we even get for my taxes? Well, you got parades, you got events, you got whatever you got. And this was all part of our operations budget that maybe you don't think about, but it is an important piece of what Norfolk County does as a service to the community and all communities.
So basically, you're looking at one year's results, not going back two, 3 years?
No, I just want to have a sense of it.
You know, we had COVID there to deal with.
No.
well,
I want to know what in 2025 we spent so we can tell people you got this value for your tax dollar.
And because we have 9 of these, let's, questions to the mover are fine. Let's just like succinctly answer the question and then save your commentary for your debate. Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I got my answers already, but part of this, I think, is that we do get a bunch of these reports in bits and pieces, and it'd be nice to have it on, like we recently got the update on the beach in Port Dover, how much it costs to clean that. We get it on Friday the 13th sometimes. The Panorama, we've had one before on the cost to set up and take down in Simcoe. And I'd never think of using that information to convince my residents of Ward 4 why we can't get a porta potty in Turkey Point a little longer in the fall, because that would not be fair. But it would be nice to get the report all on at one time, right? Like, what is the average cost of throwing out the roadblocks and things for a parade, whether it be in Langton, Waterford, wherever? Just that you got some rough idea. Is that $100 or is it $1,000? I have no idea. I don't need the exact number, but just a rough thing for all these little things that we do. You know, the porta potty price per year. I don't need a total. I can do the math myself depending on how much they are in over summer or a year-round one, and I can extrapolate those numbers. So just an overall general report would, I think, do a lot of good for everyone, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Just another thought, like, you know, if something like this was to come forward at budget, it would be good to have some of these items highlighted, like literally you can highlight them, like added this year, added, you know, 4 new porta potties in Long Point, added whatever, because sometimes I think we are adding new service level or service level enhancements on the fly, or sometimes it's an existing service, but like the Lions agreement, we've updated it to include cost of living and all of those things, which is fair, but let's manage that throughout the year, what these services are costing. I will speak to the motion. I'm going to support it. I do have some hesitancy, a little bit of concern about politicizing some of the prices on some of the events, because whether we do it around the table, I think the public will end up doing it. Well, Friday the 13th costs X dollars and we spend this much. Why can't we have X, Y, Z? So that does bring me a bit of concern, but in an effort to be transparent, I think some type of environmental scan on what we're doing and get some type of one-time report is probably pretty meaningful, and I'll be interested to see myself. So I'm not seeing any other hands. I will call the question on item 1. All in favor? Carried. Item 2, back to you, Councillor Berry.
Okay, this was hopefully just a game we're going to be debating of obviously budgets and different things. We have MBIs, we have all these things. And so we, as council, committed to economic development plan that focuses on business retention and expansion, not exclusively, but one of the focuses. And I know that we've had some reports and some updates about how many visits they've done, some of the feedback, et cetera, et cetera. It's all good stuff. What I don't know exactly yet is how many businesses have been retained or expanded, and if the support from Norfolk County played any role, what was it? Or even if there are, I just put in for example, or do we know that there are a certain number of businesses that I plan to in the next year, 3 or 5 years? Like if we're doing site visits and somebody say, well, I'm not expanding now, but I plan to someday. Like I'd like to just know, like what are we doing? Like have we had seen some success and can we just get an update on where we're at with economic development? It's extremely important. And we put money into it, and I don't know if I know what we're doing.
Perfect. Seconder, please. Councillor Huffman, debate and discussion. Seeing none, I think this is great. I think it should come forward every single year as an update to council, what's been going on. And Councillor Michelli, I do see you there. I will come to you in just a moment. And this is one of those budgets that I find interesting. Like there's a lot, like the team's very busy. They're out and about at a lot of events, but you know, what is the cost of those? What is the cost of contributing and participating in all of these events, and what does that materialize into? So really great motion, full support. Councillor Michelli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think this is a great idea as well. As an example, might be helpful to find out what the actual economic impact of both of the county-owned marinas is. I don't think we've ever actually had that information, so I think that'd be very helpful as well. So I definitely want to support this.
Okay, that's not in the motion specifically, and I don't know if we can because we've waived the rules of order already, but I think it's about new business, new attraction or growth or retention. Okay, yeah, so that's not going to be covered off in this motion, but I'll leave that to you to follow up with your own notice of motion at another time. Okay, Councillor Banandrishi, then Duthie.
Through you, Madam Chair. Again, this is a question I ask myself. What is the intent? If we do nothing in an economic development, if we find that it's costly and it's not this and it hasn't turned over a success in the timeline that we predict, it might be cut out. I don't agree with that. I agree you have to spend money to make money, and you have to invest in economic development and the team. So I caution, I agree, I'd like to see what the successes are, what's going on, what is happening there. But at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to say this is an avenue for cutting their budgets type of deal. So I want to make sure that we go in it with a clear mind of success rather than just trying to look for cutting. That's my fear.
I'll go to Councillor Duthie, then I'll come to you to clarify. Councillor Duthie, then Brutton, and then Councillor Berry can clarify.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, to be fair, I think my comment was actually very much the same in that economic development work is really, it's about long-term investment. I don't know that necessarily you receive results in the short term. So I guess, not that we can make any change to this, but I would sort of carefully encourage staff to make some projection at the same time, because again, you won't necessarily see the ROI, in a 12-month span.
Can we get the motion put back up on the screen, please, Councillor Brunton?
I've already got it. Okay, I like this idea here. I've read the motion a few times because I want to make sure. I don't know if 5 years going back is. I'd like to see like a quarterly report on this information from economic development, not one annual report. I think I asked Mr. Reagan a few things back a while ago when we got into the tariff issue with the U.S., if you could use that word, and to me it may have an impact on what we do or how we do things and retention and so forth, but I'd really like to see, like, maybe every 3 months, some kind of a little report that came from economic development that tells us what they've done, what have they done, you know what I mean? So anyways, I support the motion. I don't know if we need to go back 5 years, but.
It's going forward, plans in the future of the 5 years. And not that I'm disagreeing with your comments, but that's not captured in the motions, so that won't be happening. Councillor Berry, you can clarify anything.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like Councillor Vanandrishi wants me to sit here twirling my mustache in a sinister manner with Regan tied to the railroad tracks. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble or cut anybody's budget. I was teasing. I wasn't serious. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. What I'm trying to get at is that these are not meant to be trying to undermine people or to make them look bad. I just want to know what the return is on these projects. So when we say, how effective have you been? I'm not suggesting that if they haven't had certain level of progress that we would cut the budget. I just want to know, how are we doing? That there's no intention of any of these 8 or 9 things to embarrass anyone or make anyone look bad or to cut budgets. I just want to know how we're doing. And so, anyways, that's all. I sincerely apologize for offending. I thought you'd take that as my intention was to sort of, I was trying to say it in a funny way that I'm not a villain here, but maybe I am. So anyways.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just ask a procedural question to the clerk. Like, we have a motion on the floor legitimately. why is it not open to amendment like any other motion that's on the floor? If Councillor Michelli wanted to add an amendment to this, he could do that, get a seconder and vote on that, and it would be an amended thing. And this one's legitimately on the floor. Just because it came through a notice of motion, that shouldn't change that, should it?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I would totally agree with Councillor Van Passen that we are debating a motion that's on the floor, and amendments would be in order if council did so.
Mayor would just have to rule whether they fit, right? So.
Yeah, I didn't hear anyone ask to make amendments. I'm just clarifying what the motions are, so good to know. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Motion's still on the screen as is, as was presented. Councillor Michelli, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So with Councillor Van Passen's comments in mind, would I be able to make an amendment to this motion to
Yes.
be more inclusive of other items?
Yes.
Okay, well then I would like to have it include the economic impact that the existence of the two county marinas have on the financial viability of Norfolk County.
Okay, there's an amendment moved by Councillor Michelli. I'm not entirely convinced it's, specific to the intent of the original motion, but whatever, here we are. Is there a seconder for that? There is no seconder, Councillor Michelli. We'll leave that to you
Okay,
to
and
bring your
Madam
own.
Mayor, I understand that, and I think that perhaps this would be best made in a separate future motion.
I agree. Let's do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Duthie.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Through you, I don't want to belabor the point here. I guess just a question to the mover. How much of this, because I think you sit on the Economic Development Committee, does this information come through there? Is that not a better place for it?
So there's two questions there. I don't recall at those meetings seeing any results. Like, they certainly report on, like, say, the number of visits they've done, and that's all good. But I want to know where the visits have led to, and that's not the same thing. Like, what is the feedback, all these other things. Is that not the better place for it? For an information update, sure. But when we don't, with any advisory committee, those advisory committees don't have the power to make any kind of binding decisions. So, I guess the concern that I'm looking to cut the budget is not correct. It's just as easy to say, maybe if it's really, really good, we should increase the budget. Like, it could go either way, but how can we decide whether or not the money that council's put into economic development has been effective in the first place without an update on what that money has produced? That's all I'm trying to get at. So, yeah, that's it. So, yeah, even at the committee level, we can't make binding decisions.
Have I missed anyone? Are we all caught up? Debate's over. Motions. Go ahead for debate. Yep, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the intention of this, and I think there's some validity to it, Councillor Very. I guess where I'm struggling a little bit with this one is, which I've talked about before, it's straddling the line between operational and organizational. And I think you're right, the reporting should come, but I would prefer that it came through the avenue of that committee, which then appeared in our minutes that we could review, and then it could be a recommendation from that committee to say, based on the success, we recommend, an increase to the budget to include this program next year, which then council could, I think that, to me, that is a more logical pathway, as opposed to it just sort of all landing at this table. Again, we set the priority empowered staff to go do so, that's their operational. I feel like the reporting method could come back the other way. So I like the concept that you're trying to do here, but I'm not going to support it because I think that we're wading into territory that makes it a little uncomfortable for me, and I would rather see it in a different direction.
Councillor Breton.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. My question, first off, is how often does the Economic Development Committee meet? Once a month?
Give or take. Like if there's nothing on the agenda, we don't just have the meeting to meet, but
Well,
more or less, like yes, I would say.
Okay, well, today we looked at about 11 other committees, but there's nothing there. I've never seen anything from Economic Development. That's why, in a long time. So I would like to see some kind of reporting system from that committee. What are they doing? Who have they contacted? I agree with what you're asking for, but we need it to come from that committee, like Councillor Duthie says, to this council. I'd like to see it at least once a month, if you meet once a month, or when you meet, and tell us what you're doing.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, through you. I understand what Councillor Brenton's getting at, but the way minutes are done, we're not going to get anything like that in the way that our minutes are done. It's just not how they capture. What you could look at is you could look at adding something to a standing agenda item, possibly, but just based on the way that we keep minutes, like I'll look at minutes from other committees and stuff, and they are very vague. This farming issue was discussed, and it was, you don't know what, I'm just using that as off the top of my head, and you don't get the nitty gritty of what that issue was, and then it was passed and you move on to the next one. So I don't think that that's going to give you what you want. I think if anything that you would have to go to, that we would have to make a resolution that it would be some kind of standing agenda item on their monthly meetings.
Well, if I may, I was on active for years in the past, and we used to get a report all the time. Whatever we met with at committee level came to council. That's how it worked. But,
Yeah, so I'm just going to stop here because now we've got cross-discussion and debate happening on it's not relevant to the motion, and I'm not hearing anyone ask for an amendment. So the motion's on the floor before you. It is what it is. I'm going to call the question. My 2 cents are I will be supporting it. Economic Development Committee is not responsible for the funds that we attribute to it, which happens at budget. I think that some type of reporting and just, like we've asked for from Norfolk General Hospital an hour or so ago, what's the progress on this situation is, has more than enough merit to it, which is listed here in the motion, and then the plans moving forward in the future, which Councillor Berry's included in his motion. That already happens, but that's great. Let's touch on that. It creates accountability for the visits and the feedback. Councillor Berry, my only question for clarification through to you is it says statistics on visits and feedback are fine, but also impact. Like, I'm interested in what's the staff spending on conferences and community events and tickets and those types of things, because I think that those are line items that kind of get lost in the budget. And I want to make sure that if our, BR&E over the next 10 years is lower than what it should be, that there's some accountability on what the department's spending and where it's gone so they can pivot in their plans to do something else. And that's full support for the department and the staff and the work that they do, but we are the ones who set the budget. So again, supporting this motion for those reasons. And Councillor Berry, did you want to comment? Is that my understanding of statistics? Is that inclusive?
Well, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Again, I was trying, with respect to staff's time and all these other things, I was trying to be very pointed in what I was asking for and not ask for these large sweeping reports. So all these other things about economic development activities, like that's all super valuable. I just didn't want to, because I want it in time for budget, right? I didn't want to give them this massive thing. So I thought if we could just focus on one of those priorities that we identified, that's why I left it with business retention and expansion and not a full annual report of what they've done. So if councillors want more, I'm amenable to changing that. Of course, it's great. More information is always better. But that's why you see it specifically like this, because I wanted to make sure that we at least got that covered.
Okay, fair enough. You know what? To my questions, I can ask those at budget.
Sure.
So no amendment needed. I'm still supporting. I'm going to call the question. Motion's on the screen before you. It's moved by Councillor Berry, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All in favor? And any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Counselor Berry, item 3.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit tougher, but we know that assessment affects the taxes people pay, for sure. We also know that MPAC has not reassessed since 2016, but we also know that when you, well, I've listed it here, when you make alterations, when you buy, you sell, whatever else, you are automatically reassessed. So it would be incorrect for us to assume that just because they haven't been reassessed since 2016, that the valuations of many properties haven't changed. And so what I'm trying to get at here is, what has changed? Where are we here with just property turnovers, people renovating, all these other things? And where I'm going is, I want to know when we make decisions, what is the skew between someone, their increase to their tax bill if their property hasn't changed since 2016, and if their property has changed. Not that it means that we're not going to make those decisions, but I want to have a better sense of who's impacted and how, because it's not the same across the board nearly 10 years later. So if I had the exact same house next to me and I bought it last year, even if it's the exact same on the exact same street, my taxes are now value, not 2016 value if they've not been reassessed. So I want to have an understanding of when people say my taxes are out of control and it's not, this is a factor, and it's 10 years, we're 10 years out almost, like that's huge. So I want to get a sense of what's changed, how much has changed, what the changes are, with each type of property, so we get a real, I would like a better understanding of the impact of these decisions when we make them. That's where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Okay, is there a seconder? Is there a seconder? Each individually. Okay, yep, no, my bad, sorry. Okay, Councillor Van Passen then.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is one of these ones I don't think we need. Every year we get a visit from MPAC. I asked the specific question, I don't know, last year or the year before. And, it is my understanding still from the answers they gave, when you build a new house in 2025, they prorate the value back down to as if it were in 2016. If you added a new garage, they prorate that back down to as if it was 2016. So I don't think we need a special report on this one. We'll wait till MPAC shows up for their annual presentation in the spring, and we can ask them all these questions specifically, rather than sending staff out chasing something that doesn't need to be found. So,
Councillor Duthie?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I just actually wondered if the treasurer might have a comment related to this, because I guess I see where you're going. I just am a little curious, because the tax rate would be what would impact this. So I guess is there anything the treasurer would like to add to this? Because I'm not fully following.
Through the chair to council, yeah, so this is something that we can look into. We did have an initial discussion with Councillor Very, indicated that would take us some time to dig into it, because it's not something that we can pull very quickly. It's sort of a property by property sort of review, so it would take some time for us to dig into it, but the change is definitely something that we can pull.
Councillor Berry.
So I guess if I could ask the treasurer, then is there a reason to do this? I mean, if I'm wrong, fair enough, I'll admit that I'm wrong, but does this affect people who have had changes to their properties financially?
So through the chair to council, so it does and it doesn't, I suppose. So if you were to create, build an addition on your home, then that under MPAC would trigger the reassessment, and they would reassess the value and look at the value, but they would be reassessing that value at the 2016 level. Where once a reassessment does occur by the province, what we might see is a large number of appeals coming out based on people not agreeing with the assessed value that they'll have at the time. Whether that's going to be attributable to any renovations or anything that was done that changed the assessed value throughout, possible. So what they will do is they look at the home and they reassess it back to the 2016 value, or they do their best using comparable market statistics to come up with that value, and they have a number of metrics that they use for that. And then they do reassess, and it does increase the burden for that home because they'd be assessed at a higher value. Now, would all of those reassessments that have occurred across the county since 2016 be enough to essentially lower it for other taxpayers? I think that the change would be very, very marginal, but it is something that we can look into. I don't have the number offhand, so I can't confirm or deny, but I think it would be a minor impact.
But wouldn't it, sorry, go ahead.
Nope.
But wouldn't it impact those homes that have already been reassessed and are paying that increased dollar value because of their appeal timeline? So the appeal timeline, they come around, they get an appeal, they get their adjustment, they can only go back 3 years, I believe, through MPAC. Well, that clock started ticking for them in 2024, 2025, versus the homes that haven't been assessed yet and those changes haven't been made yet. These homes already have a few years head start on them. So isn't there a discrepancy there?
So through the merit, yes, you're correct. So they can only go back current plus 2 prior when they're going through that appeal process. But I didn't explain it clearly. So I was referring to when the province does the entire reassessment for everybody. We are predicting that there might be some reassessments that come from that. And so if your value changed relative because you already had a reassessment and somebody else's didn't, is that where discrepancies that we may see and people may appeal? We're not sure at this point because we don't know what guidelines will come out when that reassessment eventually happens.
Okay. I suppose then this is just an interesting thing, and if it's a minimal impact, then I'll withdraw this one.
Sure, if that's your wish. I think it's interesting. I'm not sure that it's not required. I think it's interesting information. I just don't know that it will, what impact it would have, but it's really, but sure.
It's interesting information, and I would be interested in knowing it, but my goal here was to produce information that would help with budget, and if this is not going to help with budget, then it's not the intention of my motion, and it would be disingenuous for me to continue with it, knowing that it's not going to make a difference when that was my intention. So I would like to withdraw it.
Okay, perfect. 3 is off the table. We'll move along to 4, which is development charge. Do you want to speak to it, or we'll get it up? Sorry, hold on. Do you want to speak to?
Not really. It's right there. I just want to know because we should know when it's coming at least. I'm not in a critical way, but I would like to get this done as soon as possible so we can start getting the revenue in. And here we are in our last budget coming into our last budget of this term. And like, what are we doing? I'd like to just know what we're doing.
Sure, I'll turn it over to the treasurer.
Thank you, and through Mayor Martin to council. So we're hoping to bring an update in Q1. We're looking to have initial public consultation with the development community, hopefully in February, and then the study will progress from there. So we're hopeful that the study will come back before the end of Q2.
Councillor Breton.
I just have one question, Mayor Martin, to staff. Is the issuance of development charges at the occupancy stage, is that by law now, or is that, I read that, but I'm wondering where it's at.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Brunton, that's correct. So that has received assent now, and we are going to collect development charges at occupancy. There's still the option for developers to pay early, and certainly we'll encourage that where we can. But we will be moving to collect at occupancy, and that's occupancy. The first occupancy within a development is what the legislation reads.
Oh, so clarify that again then. So if there's one house built in a development, you collect all the development charges?
Through the mayor, that's our understanding right now, but we're still working with some peer groups and other municipalities to see how they're treating it and to ensure that we're in line, but that's our understanding right now. It's
because if it's not the case, that could delay things a long time.
Okay, I'm going to cut the conversation off because it's not relative to the motion. We'll get an update on that. Can we also get some information historically on our development charges? Because they're not like, it's not something that's been meddled with a lot in Norfolk County's history. So as people call us out and say, oh, there's been an X percentage increase, it doesn't provide any context to what they were and what they have been, you know, compared over the years. We made one amendment in the last term of council. So could you just maybe in that Q1 update provide us with information about where we were and the changes that had been made to date?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Motion's before you. So we don't, can we withdraw this as well? The answer's Q1, Q2.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to get it in front of,
Okay.
on the table so we could get a confirmation, and we've got that. So yeah, I'm good to withdraw that one.
All right, number 5, fundraising license fee review and recommendations.
This one's driving me nuts. I've been asking for a review. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think that we necessarily need to be in the business of collecting fees on service clubs and charities that are fundraising to do work that they're doing so that the county doesn't have to do it. So I would just, I've been asking since the first budget for this, so we could debate it and see what the actual impact would be if we forgave those licensing fees, and I still haven't seen it, and here I am again coming into my last budget of this term, and I just would like the report, please.
Comments from the clerk's department?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin. So we did go back through the resolutions, and there may have been some confusion, and we may have missed a resolution that came in October of 2024, where it was briefly discussed, and there may have been some direction from council. I think I interpreted it that when we collapsed the one fund to the $35,000 grant, that covered that resolution. I was fairly new, so I didn't know it captured the lottery license. We now understand from Councillor Very that that is something he would like a report on, and staff will be putting that together and reporting back to council on the process around the lottery license fees, how that comes about, how we are the delegated agent for the ACGO, and put that in front of council to make a decision.
When? What, do you have a sense of when?
Well, I will move it up on my priority list, and we hopefully will have it sometime in January. If I don't have it ready for CIC, it'll go directly to council at the council meeting.
Okay, I'm prepared to withdraw that one also.
All right, thank you. Number 6, projects that were removed from 2026, 2035.
Yeah, this is just maybe just useful to residents, because after that capital budget, I had a few emails from people saying, well, what happened to my street, or what happened to this project? It's no longer in there. And you know, I understand why it's not there. It's because we're doing it now, so it doesn't have to be in the budget because it's underway. So what I would just like to say is, you know, here, public, here's everything that is no longer in the budget. It's not that we canceled it. This is the stuff we're working on right now. Go. And if it's just a list so people can see that, oh yeah, okay, my street is going to get done. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay, I see the treasurer grabbing at her mic.
Thank you. And through Mayor Martin to Councillor Very, I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear on what you're looking for here. So you're looking for projects that were approved in a prior year and are now underway. So they don't show in our forecast anymore, but the status of those? Okay. So we bring the capital status report twice a year, so I can show you the links with our most recent ones. So the attachment, although lengthy, it contains all of the projects currently underway with a status comment from all of the project managers. So if there are specific projects, we can help kind of weed through it, because it is a very long document, but that would be the best update for underway capital.
Sorry, yeah, I know that exists, and I guess maybe I'm splitting hairs, and I'm sorry if that's the. I'm not looking for all of the projects that are underway currently. I'm just looking for the ones that have come out of the budget just since last year. So if it's an ongoing project, it would be on that list. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for if it's a multi-year project. Just the change year to year is all I'm looking for.
Yeah, you lost me there.
Through the mayor to Councillor Very, so you're looking for, like if we had a project that was ongoing for multiple years, you want the change in expenditure? Like
No, all I want is if there was something in the capital budget last year that's no longer there because we started it, just that. Just those numbers, not everything we were still working on. If it's like been a a multi-year project. I'm talking about just so that people say, well, what happened to this? So, okay, so there might have been 25 projects that came out of the budget year over year. Pick a number. I just wanted to list like, okay, these are the ones that are out now because we've started them. That's all I wanted to get at, not every single project that we have underway.
Through the chair to Councillor Berry, so just the projects that we kicked off in 2025?
Yeah, that came out of the budget just because they're underway now.
Yep, through the chair, we can provide that.
That's all.
Okay, so then we can withdraw this. That's going to be provided through the status report, through Amy's.
Okay.
And we also have that map that we do on specific capital works that we sometimes get shared, and other years it doesn't get shared to council members. It's a really good visual to show community members capital projects going on throughout the year. Okay, treasurer's nodding yes. So withdraw before I go to him?
Sure. Well, I think Councillor Van Passen is gonna give me my place.
Again, it was going to be my comment. We get those status reports.
Okay, so I'm going to stop
And
you there.
If people
So
want to
withdraw.
look at them.
Withdraw?
Like, why are we going to send staff back to find
You're
something
debating a motion I'm
that's
trying to
there?
get withdrawn. Is the motion withdrawn?
Assuming that, yeah, that list is coming, it is.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Service Norfolk, back to you.
Sure. Again, it's right there. I just wanted numbers.
Sure, Heidi, thank you.
Madam Mayor, through you to council, this information will be part of the budget presentation for Service Norfolk.
Beautiful. Withdrawn.
Wonderful. Number 8.
Go ahead. Yeah, just again, just a housekeeping thing because it doesn't appear in the budget as advertising. I would just like to know what are we doing and how much are we spending on communicating with the public, apart from just our staff, but like what are we actually doing? Because again, people go, I never didn't hear about it, I didn't know, whatever. Okay, well, we spent this much money on it, so here it is. Like, I just want to know where it is because again, that does not specifically show up in our budget as that I'm aware of as an item. It's part of the communications operations budget.
Can we withdraw the motion and have you prepare a specific comment at budget or a line item?
Mayor Martin, yes, we are looking at historical budget information for these line items.
Withdrawn.
Wonderful. And then number 9, your new addition is the provincial service download.
Yeah, I'm not withdrawing that one. Okay.
Okay, any questions, comments on this motion before we go into debate? Councillor Columbus?
On this motion, you mean the whole motion, the whole notice of motion?
Okay, we'll get something up on the screen. It is, Councillor Berry can correct me if I'm wrong, but ongoing list, we haven't determined the time to add the cost and the type of services that we are providing that are provincially downloaded. Or do you want downloaded, do you want mandated?
However you call it, what I want to be able to tell taxpayers is that over the history of Norfolk County, as much as we can, back to incorporation, these were the services that used to be provided provincially, that were provincial taxes, that you are now paying for in your property taxes. And this is what those services cost you just last year, or will cost you this year, I guess. Those two things. So I want to be able to show people that, look, like, yeah, some of the stuff that you're paying for, this idea that, oh, the province is balancing this budget and bully for them, whatever. Yeah, because they're making the county responsible for it. So it's not as if, like, we're jacking taxes. Like, we have to do this. So I want people to have an understanding that it's not the same year over year, and it's certainly not the same as it used to be as far as this service and that service and everything else. It's substantial, and I want to know what it is.
Yeah, I agree, because this is something that I ask staff every year. I've asked for a provincial budget page in our agenda, or our budget every year. But not to call out our treasurer, but her eyes got really big when you said in the history of Norfolk County. So I'm thinking that that's probably not manageable before budget, but.
I don't want all of the total dollars that have been spent. I just want to know this service is now our responsibility. Last year we spent this year and just when it changed, if possible. That's all. I'm not looking for a complete historical accounting of every dollar that was spent on downloads. Just last year, this year, and the program and how it changed and when. And that's all. That was my ultimate hope, to say, look, over the last 25 years, here's what's happened. And here's the story. And here's why your taxes keep going up when we can't really control these things.
Can we make this a two-part motion, an amendment with from the inception of Norfolk County, that part comes back at a later date?
Sure, I just, mostly for budget, I want to know the impact of the dollars, but I would like to be able to tell the community, in the sake of transparency and explaining how decisions are made and how taxes work and blah, 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 that this is substantial and it's important that they understand why we do the things we do and how.
Councillor Huffman, then Van Passen.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask Councilor Vera a question? I guess my question to you would be, I totally understand what you're getting at, and I think it's important that taxpayers know what services have been downloaded. But how do you, I'm just trying to think who it was. Was it Burlington or someone the other day just announced their levy rate is going to be 3.4%. We're not going to be anywhere near that. So what about the argument that people say, well, they have to have these services downloaded. We have them downloaded. Why are we at this rate and some other municipalities able to do 3.4?
Well, I think, through the mayor, I think there's a couple of answers to that. One is that their 3.4 is a lot different than our 3.4 in terms of revenue. Like, it was a percentage of probably what their tax base is. So they'd be part of it, because there's always that base cost that comes, as you know, but you know, the incremental cost after the base cost is going to be a much less as a percentage if you have a much larger base, so percentage. But I also, when I see those types of increases and they say, oh, Burlington did this and that, whatever, Burlington may have, but what about the upper tier versus the lower tier, right? It's not always the same thing. Like, I've seen people post go, oh yeah, St. Catharines only did this, or Niagara Falls, or whatever. Burlington only did 1.8, 1.9. Yeah, and then their region did 10. So it's not the same when we're one tier and we have to do it all. Our percentages are going to be a lot different than a two tier that can say, oh, ours are only 2%. Yeah, because the other region picked up the other 10. So that's where I'm at, is that Norfolk County absorbs downloads in a different way than a two-tier government would, and I don't think people even understand always the difference between two-tier government, let alone how that impacts our budgets and decisions that we have to make because we're forced to pick up the whole tab.
Is that helpful? Councillor Van Passen.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think we got to do something with the wording of this motion, because I can't think of one thing that the province has downloaded onto municipalities. What they do is they change the regulations and they mandate us to do extra work. And I'll use I don't know if Mr. Grace is still online, the changes to the stormwater system. That cost us 3 new employees, an extra $1 million a year. And it was just a little change in some regulations, and that's what it cost us. The new standards on stormwater retention ponds is another one. Discussed this a bit yesterday at Health and Social Services Advisory, that we have all these government programs we're mandated to do. They're 100% funded by the province, and they're capped. They haven't been increased in years. The budget amount hasn't changed. It's 100% funded. They get to brag about it, but anything over that is beyond the cap, the levy of Norfolk County pays for. So, you know, again, they didn't do anything wrong. It's our fault that more people are hungry and more people are homeless and more people can't live, so we just got to pay the bill. So maybe that wording should be the costs that have been mandated by changes in provincial regulations, et cetera, and go from there. So.
Sure. And then to staff, does that capture Councillor Van Passen's point on 100% funded that hasn't changed, like those cost of living increases? Is that clear enough that you can include that? So if there's a program that's a legislated requirement for us to do, but it receives 100% funding, but that dollar value hasn't changed, to Councillor Very's point, report on what the cost has been to us because that dollar value hasn't changed. Yep, okay, yep, from the CAO. So we use the word downloaded. Councillor Van Passen's correcting us just on those mandated legislative requirements or regulations. But also, yeah. Okay, I was gonna get ahead of myself, but it's not my motion. That's good. Is that okay with you? That change in language?
Yeah, the wording of downloads or not is just a word we use in our regular day-to-day parlance, so I wasn't, the according to Hoyle technical term should be in there, I just don't know what it is. But yeah, that's, all I'm trying to capture is, look, the province used to pay for this, or we didn't have to pay for it, and we county, and now we do. And that's all I'm trying to get at. However we word it, I don't super care.
Okay, and then I just want to clean up the second part that I asked to add, and Councilor Berry has allowed it, which is, so the intent of his motion is for this to be captured in this year's budget. So it's not in a future report. The future report is the identified service, let's call them level changes, year over year between the province of Ontario and Norfolk County. And that's at a, yeah, since inception, and that's to come at a later date. That's not with the, and further that the dollar amount and types of services identified services from downloads or mandated legislative changes since Norfolk County's inception, or the inception of Norfolk County, return to council in a staff report. And then I'll leave that. Hopefully it can come to this term, because that would be really interesting, but I don't want to presume how long and how far back you'd have to go to capture all that. Is that okay with you, Councilor Berry? Okay.
Yeah, really, again, and I appreciate it, and I don't mean to beat the dead horse, I just really wanted the numbers for budget time. And then this other stuff is just interesting information that I would like the public who cares to know, that we're not just throwing money around. Like, some of the money we have to do it. So that's all I'm trying to clarify.
I'm also just wondering, not to belabor this, but if there's that area where staff in this direction, will you record something like the recycling program? Because the way I read that, I would think you wouldn't record it because we didn't pay to continue it. However, I think it should be recorded as a service level mandated legislative change. So then politically speaking, when you're speaking to your constituents, you could say, yeah, here's the dollar value, and it would have been this if we had have continued to pay for 1, 7, and 9 on that list. Is that understood, or am I? The way I read it is that you're going to report on things that cost us money, and what I'm asking for is, although there will have been other legislative changes that we may or maybe did not add onto the tax levy, that dollar value and what that changes, I also would like to see, because I think it helps with the argument to Councillor Berry's entire point, which is transparency, talking about how our tax bills are built out to be the way they are.
Yeah, Mayor Martin, through you, I think that the mandated legislative change piece would capture items like that as well, that isn't specific to an increase in costs.
Okay, and then last time, Councillor Berry, are you okay with that? I'm adding to, okay. All right, does everyone understand the two parts there? The first part comes back before budget, the second part is just interesting information. I will call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. I'm going to pass it over to our CAO briefly.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I appreciate the notice of motion and council's flavor for what you're looking for. Just want to set expectations that we are going to do our very best to provide as much transparency and information in time for January 21st, which is Budget Committee. Understanding that today is the 16th and there will be a significant taxing on our financial staff to put this all together to the best that we can. We're going to do our very best, but just to set expectations that if we don't have everything ready to the full extent, we will commit to coming back at a later date, but we will do our very best to put as much information in front of council to address these needs. We understand exactly what you're looking for, and we will do our best to provide it at budget time.
And then just an error I made before, there were two parts to the staff recommendation on report CDS 25108. That was the evaluations of road allowance. We did not move the second part. We selected the option, but the second part, if we can get that put up on the screen, that council approved the update to rural valuations for road allowances, street lanes, alleys as a more current reflection of fair market value. And further, that all road closure applications received prior to January 1st, 2026 be processed at the current rural valuation, and all other road closure applications received after January 1st, 2026 be processed at the approved valuation as set out in this report. Okay, mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Berry. Councillor Van Andrieschie, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Alrighty. Do we have any other business on the agenda? Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. In all my years as a councillor, I've never seen such a multifaceted notice of motion come before council. And I think we might be kind of rushing things. I think this would have been better off to go to a committee or something first. Staff's got a lot of work to do in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And it's putting a lot of pressure on them, as the CEO mentioned. We had 9 different items here, like community project services, economic development. They're all different, multifaceted. And I would like to see that action item list come back that we had years ago. And perhaps we could have piecemealed this and done a little bit at a time rather than have all these things come back for a rush answer within 3-4 weeks if we can get that done. Thanks.
Can staff take direction today to bring back the action item quarterly on our agenda? It was the last page of the agenda. It was an ongoing list of council-approved outstanding reports, those types of things, and it had the name and the date that it was passed and a status update pending Q1, Q2, and then things that Councillor Berry had, asked for here or maybe already passed would have. Like the licensing one would have been said, no longer needed, and he would have raised it in other business and those types of things.
So through you, Madam Mayor, if I may, just to be clear, so we're looking for to be added on a quarterly basis starting in 2026, what we're going to call a referred matters list, which will capture all outstanding action to staff, with the date that it was asked for, with whatever the request was, the department that's been assigned to it, and the date that it is scheduled to come back to council, and that way we can track the progress of how we're doing things.
Councillor Duthie?
I'm sorry, it's not necessarily related to the piece about the CAO that just said, but I did want to ask, because Councillor Columbus is right. There was a lot of action items there. However, I do appreciate the direction that Councillor Berry was taking and the responses that he's looking for. But one of his comments was that he asked the questions and didn't get answers. And that does pose some cause for concern for me. So I guess I'm maybe looking for the CEO to make some comment, because I'm not sure why a councillor can't get the answer to the question necessarily.
So through you, Madam Mayor, if what we are talking about was item number 3 on the list of 8 or 9 notices of motion, what we've said all along and what we're talking about is no one councillor can direct staff to do some work. And so what we've said as staff is if there's a request from a councillor that is readily available to the public, if it's sort of a 3-minute sort of review for a staff member to provide that answer, we do. If a councillor is asking a staff member to do some work, which will require a significant amount of staff time to get done, in this particular case in terms of the property assessment valuations and some of the changes, that is a significant amount of work. And so we did ask the councillor if he could bring it back in a notice of motion so that if all of council saw value in the request, council as a whole would direct staff to do that work. We don't have staff that are just sort of sitting on a bench waiting for an assignment to come out and start to doing the work. And so the request would have pulled a staff member off the regularly scheduled responsibilities and duties to provide a significant amount of time to do the research and provide those answers. And so we had asked if it could come to council so that council can direct staff to do that work.
Okay, I certainly appreciate that, and you're absolutely right. Council shouldn't, individual councilors shouldn't be directing staff to do work. However, there are some questions in here. Development charge review and recommendations. When will council receive this? That should be a relatively straightforward email answer to say, we'll have it in January, or whatever the response is. Service Norfolk, how many calls, emails are received, what's the completion rate? Should be relatively report, here's the data, send it off. I appreciate the idea is that all of council should be aware. Cool. So send it to all of council and say this request was made. Here's the response. The advertising is the same thing. I guess I would hope that some of this doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a motion. It should be, here's the report, here you go.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think that's a question to the councillor in terms of his intent to put it in a notice of motion.
Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Through you, just because we are on the section of the agenda that is other business, and I think we've gotten away from that as well. We've had it's been a bumpy road with other business. People were all of a sudden just springing things on staff that didn't have them prepared, and I'll get back to you on that. So I think if maybe with some of these things, this could have been under other business, and that you would say to maybe the clerk's department, at the next council meeting or CIC meeting, I'm going to be bringing forward a question about where we're at with the fundraising and licensing agreements and things like that under other business, and then that gives staff a chance to come back with some answers. So I think we need to start making use of our other business and giving staff a heads up. Then it's transparent, it's done in front of everybody, and staff are prepared. The other business shouldn't be a aha gotcha, oh, you don't know what the answer is, you got to come back. So I think just a polite heads up to the staff involved, and let's start using other business, and hopefully then we'll have a reduction in our action items.
Yep, sounds good to me. So just going back to Al's seeking clarification on that referred item list, does that cover off the intent of what councilors are hoping for? That's how we used to do it. Councilor Michelle's good. Okay, all right, great. You got that? Perfect.
Can we have that as a motion?
That as a motion, sure. Mover and a seconder, Councilor Duthie and Councilor Huffman, all in favor. Referred items list with updates on status of that particular request. Okay, so final call on other business then. Anyone else? Seeing none, general announcements. Councillor Vanden Drieschie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I'd like to wish everyone in Norfolk County a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays for all those who celebrate at this time of the year, and a Happy New Year as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything from staff? Same message goes from me, and I would extend that to, all of our essential workers that are out over the holidays as well. We've got our road staff, we've got our Norview Lodge team, and I think recreation staff. Don't quote me, I'm gonna forget somebody, but thank you to all of the staff who are out working over the holidays as well. Very Merry Christmas to everyone, and best wishes for a great new year. Bylaw, please, to confirm the proceedings. Bylaw 2025-106, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Norfolk County Council, this regular council meeting held on the 16th day of December 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council. Moved by Councillor Vanden Drieschie, Councillor Huffman, all in favor. Carried. Adjournment by Councillor Huffman and Councillor Michelle at 4:12. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Please get some well-deserved time off, and we'll see you all back in January.
Yes, Merry Christmas, everyone. Bye now.